What if everything you believe about happiness, success, and even your own desires is a carefully packaged lie? Today, we unmask 4 dangerous lies society feeds you, and through Freud's hidden truths, we'll reveal how to reclaim your real self. The human mind is not a peaceful place. Beneath the polite smiles and social rituals, there is a storm, a conflict of instinct and morality, desire and fear. Society whispers to you not to soothe you, but to control you. Today, we shall dissect 4 of society's most dangerous lies. You may find them living inside your mind already, disguised as your own thoughts. They tell you happiness is the ultimate purpose, the final destination. From the time you are small, they place this golden carrot just beyond your reach. Be happy, they say, as if happiness were a simple product you could purchase, wear, and never take off. You are taught that sadness is failure, that anger is dangerous, that anxiety is weakness. Every billboard, every curated smile on a glowing screen whispers the same command. You must always be happy. But I must ask, have you noticed how exhausting it is to pretend? Sigmund Freud, whose whispers echo through the chambers of the mind, would tell you this demand is not only false, it is destructive. The mind, he argued, is not built for permanent happiness. It is not a sunlit garden. It is a battleground, a constant negotiation between 3 forces. Deep within you lives the idea, primitive, craving pleasure without rules. Hovering above is the superego, the stern voice of morality, of parents and teachers and society itself, endlessly judging and demanding perfection. And between them struggles the ego, like a weary diplomat trying to keep peace between desire and duty. Imagine this fragile balance, and then imagine society walking in and demanding that you smile while the battle rages. It is absurd. Happiness cannot be constant because the psyche was not designed to be still. It was designed to wrestle, to question, to adapt. When you believe you must always be happy, you are declaring war on your own human nature. Consider what happens when you wake up on a gray morning, heavy with emotion. Instead of listening to what your mind is trying to tell you, you scold yourself. You compare your mood to the highlight reels you see online. Everyone else seems radiant, fulfilled, glowing, and you are merely human. The more you chase happiness, the further it slips. Freud would tell you this is because happiness is not a goal. It is a byproduct, a fleeting visitor that appears when the psyche is momentarily at peace. By turning it into a duty, you convert it into pressure. You make happiness into a burden. This is the quiet lie hidden inside modern culture. They do not want you to be balanced. They want you to be productive. A constantly smiling worker buys more, works harder, questions less. If you feel sadness, you might pause. You might ask why. You might rebel. So they call sadness a sickness, something to be medicated, erased. But Freud saw value in pain. He saw it as a signal, a clue to what lies unresolved inside. The psyche grows not by suppressing discomfort, but by understanding it. True strength comes not from plastering on a grin, but from daring to feel. Think of the times you've felt truly alive. Not just happy, but alive. Were they times of pure pleasure? Or were they moments of struggle, of risk, of transformation? The human mind does not thrive on endless comfort. It thrives on meaning. Meaning often grows from conflict, from facing fear, from enduring loss, from standing up to inner chaos and saying, I will not be ruled by this. Happiness is a surface emotion. Meaning is the deep current. Society teaches you to surf the surface. Freud urges you to dive, and yet, most people are terrified to stop pretending, because the moment you admit you are not always happy, you fear you will be judged. You fear being seen as broken, but this fear itself is proof of the lie's power. It keeps you silent, trapped inside your smile. Freud called this the tyranny of the superego, the voice of society inside your own skull, scolding you for not being cheerful enough. But the psyche does not need your smile, it needs your honesty. When you deny sadness, you drive it underground. It becomes part of your unconscious, where it festers, mutating into anxiety, resentment, exhaustion. You do not destroy pain by ignoring it. You only make it more powerful. So you chase happiness like a moth to a flame, wondering why the fire burns you. Because happiness was never meant to be permanent. It is a passing visitor. When you accept this, something strange happens. You stop forcing the smile. You begin to notice other states, curiosity, wonder, even grief, that carry their own quiet beauty. And slowly, you begin to understand what Freud meant, that life is not about erasing tension, but about living within it. The psyche is alive because it struggles because it is human, and humanity was never meant to be. From the moment you can speak, they begin to tame you. They teach you which feelings are good, and which are bad, which dreams are acceptable, and which must be buried. The world does not ask what you want. It tells you what you are allowed to want. And every time an impulse rises from deep within, something ancient and wild, you hear that cold voice of society whisper, "No, that is wrong." You obey. You push the desire down out of sight. And in that moment, you begin to forget that it is still alive, breathing, watching you from the shadows of your own mind. Freud would not be surprised. He called these forbidden impulses the language of the ID, the oldest part of the psyche, pure instinct, untouched by morality. The ID wants what it wants: pleasure, power, freedom, release. It does not understand rules or shame or consequences. But hovering above it is the superego, the stern voice of culture, parents, teachers, and fear. It does not want you to be free, it wants you to be obedient. Between them struggles the ego, trying to satisfy the ID while avoiding the superego's punishments. When the superego wins, when it crushes desire, that energy does not disappear. It simply goes underground. Imagine locking a wild creature in the basement of your mind. It does not vanish. It grows restless. It claws at the walls. And one day, when you least expect it, it escapes. Not as what it was, but as something warped, disguised, unrecognizable. This is repression. This is how desires you have condemned as wrong return through the back door of your psyche, hidden in your dreams, disguised as anxiety, slipping into your relationships, distorting your choices. The more violently you reject your desire, the deeper it embeds itself in your unconscious, where it controls you in secret. This is the great hypocrisy of society. They pretend to protect you from desire, when in truth they fear it. Desire makes you unpredictable. Desire makes you powerful, and power cannot be controlled. So they teach you to distrust it. They dress repression as virtue. They reward you for silence. But Freud saw this mask for what it is: fear of the instinctual. He understood that what we call civilized is often just terrified of our own nature. You were not born ashamed of your desires. You were taught to be. Think of how early this begins. A child reaches for what fascinates them, and a hand swats theirs away. A teenager feels desire bloom like fire in the chest, and they are told to extinguish it with guilt. An adult dreams of escape from their carefully constructed life, and they whisper it only to their pillow. These are not sins, they are signals. Each desire is a message from the unconscious, revealing something your surface self has not yet dared to see. When you treat those messages as poison, you cut yourself off from your own truth. Freud believed that repression is never harmless. The mind is not a storage closet where unwanted things can be hidden. It is a living system, and anything you suppress becomes part of its structure. Repressed desire twists into compulsions. It emerges as sudden rage, irrational fear, self-sabotage, even illness. You think you are in control because you have buried the thought. In reality, the thought is in control because you are too afraid to face it. What you exile becomes your ruler, and yet, what if you stopped calling your desires wrong? What if, instead of fearing them, you listened? This does not mean obeying every impulse or abandoning restraint. It means allowing the idea to speak so the ego can understand it, so the superego does not need to scream. It means becoming conscious of what already lives inside you, instead of pretending it does not exist. Awareness is not surrender, it is freedom. Desire itself is not dangerous. It is only dangerous when you deny it and let it rot in the dark. Look closely at the places where you feel most ashamed, most conflicted. Often, those are the doorways to your buried self. Society calls them wrong because they threaten the mask you were trained to wear. But the mask is not you. Beneath it, the hidden parts of your psyche are still alive, waiting to be seen. They are not evil. They are not broken. They are simply yours. And until you face them, they will continue to whisper from the unconscious, guiding your life in ways you do not understand, shaping your fears, your habits, your secret longings, quietly pulling the strings from the shadows. From the first moment you enter the world of others, they begin to measure you. Gold stars on papers, grades on reports, trophies lined like little monuments to your obedience. They do not ask what you feel, or what haunts you, or what moves you to tears. They ask what you can produce. And so you learn the rhythm of the game: achieve, display, repeat. The world applauds not who you are, but what you accomplish. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to confuse applause with love, productivity with value, success with worth. Freud would warn you that this is the ego's most seductive trap. The ego is the negotiator, the mask, the public self you craft to survive among others. It lives for recognition. It collects achievements like armor, hoping they will protect the fragile core beneath. But the psyche is not healed by praise. Applause does not touch the unconscious. It only feeds the surface while the deeper self starves. When society insists that success defines your worth, it is teaching you to serve the mask instead of the soul. Consider what this lie does to your inner world. Each morning you awaken and weigh yourself on invisible scales. Did I do enough? Did I win? Did I impress them? And when the answer is no, you do not simply feel disappointed. You feel worthless. Because the lie has rooted itself inside your superego, the inner voice of judgment. It no longer needs the world to scold you. You scold yourself. You become both the performer and the critic, dancing frantically for an audience that lives only in your head. This is how the pursuit of success mutates into self-torture. And even when you succeed, the relief is brief. The applause fades quickly. The silence returns. You chase another goal and another, each one more distant. Each one promising that this time you will finally feel whole. But wholeness never arrives, because success does not mend the fractures in the psyche. It only distracts from them. It allows you to postpone the confrontation with your unconscious, the hidden fears and forgotten wounds that shape your life from below the surface. You can drape them in gold, but they are still there, whispering. Freud believed that much of human suffering comes from this tension between who we are and who we think we must appear to be. The ego bends itself into shapes to earn approval, while the ID smolders with its own unruly desires, and the superego lashes at you for every perceived failure. When you tie your worth to success, you are giving the superego a whip and begging it to strike. And the cruelest part is this: society rewards the performance. They clap for your mask and ignore the face beneath it. They admire your productivity and remain blind to your pain. Think of how early this performance begins. A child draws a picture. Instead of asking what the child felt while drawing it, the adults ask if it's good. A teenager writes a poem and is told it must win a competition to matter. An adult chooses a career not from passion, but from fear. Fear of being seen as nothing. This is not ambition. This is survival under the weight of expectation. And it becomes so automatic that you forget there was ever a self beneath the achievements. A self that simply wanted to exist without needing to prove its right to be here. You see this everywhere, in the way people boast of how little they sleep, how much they work, how busy they are, as if exhaustion were a badge of honor. They are not truly proud. They are terrified that if they stop producing, they will disappear. Because when society teaches that success defines worth, it also teaches that failure erases you. But failure does not erase you. It only strips away the mask. What terrifies people is not failure itself, but being seen without their armor, naked before their own minds, unsure who they are without the applause. Freud knew that the psyche longs not for trophies, but for understanding. The unconscious does not care for wealth or titles. It wants integration, wholeness, the reconciliation of all the parts you have split apart to appear acceptable. Yet society keeps you chasing external symbols because as long as you chase them, you will not pause to ask dangerous questions. Who am I when I am not succeeding? Who am I when I am not performing? Who am I when no one is watching? The answers to these questions live in the shadowed places you have been taught to ignore, the places that hold the truth of who you are, waiting patiently beneath the noise of the world. They tell you to move on, to forget, to bury the past like a dead thing. It's over, they say, as though time alone were a cure, as though memory could be erased simply by refusing to look at it. But the mind does not discard its history. It stores it in layers, like ancient stone hidden beneath new soil. You walk through life believing you are free from what came before, yet your every choice, every fear, every sudden flash of anger carries the fingerprints of yesterday. The past is not gone. It is only hidden, waiting behind the curtain of your conscious mind. Freud knew this better than anyone. He understood that the unconscious is a vast archive, storing not only the things you remember, but also the things you could not bear to remember. The psyche, to protect itself, buries pain deep within its structure. Childhood humiliations, moments of fear, unmet needs, forgotten traumas. These become the silent architects of your present. You may not recall their faces, but they shape the way you speak, the way you love, the way you defend yourself against invisible threats. You are not escaping the past by ignoring it. You are simply letting it rule you in secret. Imagine the mind as a grand old house. The conscious rooms are bright and orderly, where you entertain others, where you pretend you are fine. But beneath the floors are locked rooms, places you have not entered in years. You think those rooms are empty because you do not see them. Yet they hum with forgotten voices, echoing through the walls. You hear them at night as you lie awake, not knowing why you cannot rest. You see them in your patterns, choosing the same kind of partner, sabotaging the same kind of opportunity, fearing what never comes. This is the past, alive inside the present, speaking in symbols because you will not hear it in words. Society fears this truth. It tells you the past doesn't matter because if you believed it did, you might stop obeying the present. You might pause, dig, question the roots of your behavior. That would be dangerous. Reflection slows production, so they feed you mantras. Let go, move forward, don't dwell. But repression is not healing. Forgetting is not freedom. Freud warned that what is repressed returns, and it does not return politely. It returns through nightmares, compulsions, sudden outbursts you cannot explain. It returns when you see something innocent and feel a wave of despair, not knowing why. It returns as the weight in your chest that has no name, Think about how often you tell yourself, "That's just how I am." As if your habits, your reactions, your fears were carved into your DNA. But most of them are not who you are. They are who you became to survive. A child learns which emotions earn love and which invite punishment. A teenager learns which parts of themselves must be hidden to stay safe. An adult carries these lessons like invisible armor, forgetting where they came from, mistaking them for identity. The past you think you've escaped still chooses your steps, even when you call them your choices. Freud believed that to be free, you must make the unconscious conscious. You must walk back through those corridors you sealed off, not to stay there, but to understand what still lives there. The past is not just pain, it is also the map to who you are. Within those buried rooms lie the origins of your desires, your defenses, your deepest longings. You fear going back because you think it will destroy you. But it has already shaped you. The ghosts are not growing weaker in the dark. They are growing stronger because you refuse to look at them. And so you keep running forward, hoping distance will save you. You collect new titles, new partners, new places to hide, but the old patterns follow. They wear new masks, but their eyes are familiar. You see them in the way you flinch from love, in the way you chase validation from people who cannot give it, in the way you sabotage happiness the moment it appears. You call it bad luck. Freud would call it repetition, the compulsion to recreate the past until it is finally understood. You are not cursed, you are repeating. Until you uncover the first wound, you will keep living its echo. Society promises that time heals all wounds, but time does not heal what you refuse to touch. The past waits. It does not fade. It only sinks deeper, pulling invisible strings through your present. The more you insist it doesn't matter, the more control it gains. To pretend the past is gone is to let it drive from the backseat, steering your life while you stare blindly at the road ahead, never realizing whose hands are truly on the wheel. They told you to be happy at all costs, to smother your darker feelings until only a smile remained. They told you your desires were dangerous, to lock them away as though silence could erase their fire. They told you your worth depended on success, to chase applause until you forgot the sound of your own voice. They told you the past was gone, to keep walking while the ghosts followed close behind. Narrator voice deepens, measured, but these were not truths. They were chains, woven from comfort, polished with praise, meant to keep you tame. Freud knew the human mind does not thrive in chains. It wrestles, it questions, it burns for meaning. To live is not to be perfect. To live is to stand in the tension between desire and duty, joy and sorrow, past and present. And remain whole, narrator soft, compelling. If you wish to be free, you must look inward, even into the shadows. Face the chaos within you, name it, because only when you dare to see the full shape of your own mind will you stop being who the world told you to be and finally become who you truly are.